Hello. I got one viewer. Good job, you made it here first. As usual, we're going to give about 5 minutes to let people take their break after that awesome last presentation and get comfortable for a sweet, awesome look at self-organization, emergent behavior. There's some quality stuff here you're going to learn. Maybe you've heard of it before. Pretty mind-blowing. Let's get ready for DST in the CML, part 2. Hi. Oh, 5 viewers. Oh, how nice. You came early. So I actually prepared a special treat for those who showed up early as we wait for the others. Um, I am the mother of 2. I have 2 wonderful children, and my younger child, I was just reading her a book last night. She's 3 years old. And as usual, I can't stop thinking about you all in the Changemaker Lab. I'm always thinking about how it relates, what we learned in this class relates to our life. I was reading her this book, It's Okay to Make Mistakes by Todd Parr, and I was just cracking up thinking about that this is actually like a super quality lesson for our work in the Changemaker Lab. And even during the Ashoka conference, I remember one of the presenters, sorry, I can't remember who it was, but when asked what their most important like takeaway lesson that they wanted to share with everyone was, that person said, take advantage of failure. It's okay to fail. And you actually, that's how you learn, is by failing. So, for those who are early, it's okay to make mistakes in the Changemaker Lab and in life. It's okay to make mistakes. Just think about it as an analogy. Just think, that's what this is all about, is having fun with analogies. It's okay if you spill your milk. You can always clean it up. Not really sure what that means as an analogy. You can put in the chat if you want to have fun. We're just hanging out, waiting to get started. Oh, this is a good one. It's okay to try a different direction. You might discover something new. 2 right for the Changemaker Lab. Another good one for math. It's okay to not know the answer. Asking questions helps you learn. So true. It's so true, but hard to follow sometimes, right? Mistakes still feel bad, but it's okay to get upset. We've been there, probably. Hey, your friends are there to cheer you on. That's hopefully true in your team companies, your project teams, and in life in general. It's okay to fall down. You can always get back up. It's okay to wear 2 different socks. Others may try it too. It's okay to forget your umbrella. You might meet someone new. Networking. They're teaching it at an early age. It's okay to change your mind. Totally, that happens a lot, seems like, in our lab. Everyone's ready at a different time. I like this one because I am quite clumsy. It's okay if you are clumsy. You might invent a new move. I like this one because I like to get dirty. It's okay to get dirty. A bubble bath is a lot of fun. It's okay to be shy. We got some shy people in the Changemaker Lab? Well, guess what? Being quiet can make you a good listener. Those are active listeners. Yes. Hello, welcome. We're having a little book read here. It's okay to make mistakes while we're getting warmed up to get started. It's okay to color outside the lines. Damn right it is. Entrepreneurship. is good to follow your own path. That's what the Changemaker Lab is all about. Follow your own path. Hey, everyone has uh-oh moments. That's how you learn. This is a book for my kid. Like, this is so true for all of us. That's how you learn. It's okay to make mistakes sometimes. Everyone does, even grown-ups. That's how we learn. Love Todd Parr. So good. So good. Thank you for the lesson, Todd. Just like fractals, this lesson is good from age 1 to 100. Yes. Okay, cool. Now I see 18 viewers and 22 viewers now, so glad you're here. Welcome, welcome. And I will start with something that I'd like to do for each time you request one of my workshops. It's going to be funny. I hope you get the joke. Let's review last time on DST and the CML. You get it? So next time it'll be like we're going to form a fractal kind of thing. Yeah. So let's keep asking Melissa to do workshops, and then we'll get to see the next iteration. This is just the second iteration, and then we'll keep doing that, and that will be funny. Okay. Let's see if I can find it. All right, here we go. So last time on DST and the CML, we had a waiting period. That's kind of what we're in right now. Then we got to see like this crazy, super awesome fractal, and you might have thought, oh man, Melissa used up all her best material. There can't possibly be anything cooler than this to show them. And it's actually not true, because I would argue that today's workshop on self-organization is somehow even more astounding than our introduction to fractals, and it is intimately related to it, as my doctoral advisor Hong used to say. Okay, so then we went over the fractals, we kept zooming in on the fractals. Then we learned about Melissa's publication history and academic history and stuff. See a little more about that today. I have a very strong background in mathematical modeling. Very, very happy to be here with you all right now, exploring this and being able to spread it to everyone, as opposed to just the elite few who have made it through the ringer of calculus. Then we got to see this cool zoom in, this crazy scale-free, multi-scale, fractal pattern action. Started doing some polls, asking you all to name things that are self-similar babies. A lot of people said babies in their mother's wombs, and that's just really heartwarming. What are we thankful for? It's almost Thanksgiving. A lot of us said family. I'm extremely thankful for family. What kind of scales are important to you? We talked about age, resources, costs of things, quality of life. That's a huge scale of importance. That's not necessarily like visible, obviously visible, but it's definitely there. And then we had a little discussion of this super sweet fractal that we drew last year on the red square, and how could you get people to do that. That was pretty good. And I think, again, everyone who was there. Okay. So that's just a review from last week, and then the next week, we'll review it again, and it's going to look funny, and okay, yeah, you get the joke. So, let's get started. Woo! Welcome everyone. This is DST and the CML, part 2. Self-organization and emergence. What the heck is self-organization? Why do I keep saying that so much? Why am I so excited about that? You know what? Let's do it this way. Let's go over to Wikipedia, because I don't know about you, but a lot of times when I don't know what something is, or I want to learn more about something, I just go to Wikipedia, right? So you go to Wikipedia, search for self-organization, also called in the social sciences spontaneous order. It's a process where some form of overall order arises from local interactions between parts of an initially disordered system. Oh, how interesting. My team company was just doing their value proposition canvas this morning, and that kind of reminded me of that, because we were all putting the pasties everywhere, and it was kind of initially a disordered system, but there was a lot of drive and desire to get it kind of hammered down and condensed on a leading thought for what kind of product we're going to take to our next step, which is a business model canvas. So I would argue that was a form of self-organization. Self-organization occurs in a number of different ways, and the important thing to note here is that in order for self-organization to occur, it requires the interaction of different parts in some sort of connected network. That is a key to the self-organization of what's sometimes called emergent phenomena, is that it doesn't really exist at the level of just a single individual. Like if I'm just by myself, there's not going to be some spontaneous, emergent, new form of thing. It's only when I get together with other people, and that's why the Changemaker Lab emphasizes so much teamwork. It's all about teams and teams of teams, is because it knows, the process knows, that in order for self-organization to take place, we must have a coupled network of individuals. And then what happens is, if those individuals work appropriately together and they start to align, start to gel, and they really get somewhere, what's going to happen? Well, we're not really sure exactly what's going to happen, but one thing's for sure, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be complex, and it is going to emerge as something which exists on a higher level. It's not something that an individual is even capable of. And that kind of brings me to the beginning of, I'm going to just show you the notes real quick because, oh, where are we in our notes? Just a second. I'm writing these notes for everybody, and I hope you like it, and I think you probably do. Last week was fractals. I wrote this whole chapter this week for you all, trying to relate it to what you're going through right now and learn a lesson. Not only about self-organization, but start to learn some lessons that are going to make our teamwork better, because like I was saying, the magic is going to happen when our team is strong. So we're going to go down to the chapter 2. Don't forget about the awesome fractal notes from before. But here, in the first section, I want to talk about emergence. Okay? And so that's what I was saying about networks, is that self-organization of emergent phenomena can only occur when you have networks. It's not like something that you can refer to at the scale of an individual. It's something that happens on a network level. So I learned about this in my studies of applied mathematics, statistical mechanics, physics, all sorts of hard science kind of stuff. But there's examples all over the place. Magnetization in physics, crystal formation in chemistry, but it goes further than that. In biology, this is how the leopard got its spots, and I'm going to show you a video of that. In ecology, this explains how groups of animals get into their crazy emergent behaviors, such as swarming and schooling and stuff like that. Human behaviors, if you actually go back to that Wikipedia and really read through it, you're going to see that, especially on the page that refers to it as spontaneous order, people are arguing that the formation of human language is an example of emergent phenomena. The evolution of societies, democracy itself, all these things that our societies have created by humans interacting with each other, is argued that this are examples of emergent phenomena. Okay, so take a look at that. Like I was saying, especially if you click on the spontaneous order version of it, they say the market economy itself is emerging on its own. Democracy, all these things. But I'm going to show you some really cool videos right now to get us warmed up. And keep in mind, while you're watching the videos I'm about to present, that our first live poll activity is going to be to consider what types of scales you see in the examples that follow. Okay, so we're going to make a word cloud. This is going to be a warm-up for our future polls here, is that get that poll link ready. When I show you these examples, try to think of a single word that describes a scale, like centimeters or hours or seconds or kilometers, something like that. Because what I'm trying to highlight to you right now is that emergent behaviors are scale-free. They're scale-free, just like the fractals from last week. Remember I was talking about scale-free? That means that they're valid on every scale, which is pretty incredible. Okay, let's go to some awesome examples of this. The first one I would like to show is called classical Belousov-Zhabotinsky reaction. And this is an example of simply a chemical reaction. There's no biology involved in here. There's no living bacteria or anything living about this. This is just a little bit of chemical soup that gets mixed up, and it's just let to do whatever it's gonna do. Let's watch. See you guys poking it with like a little pin there, trying to get it going. I bet you didn't see that one coming. When people first saw this, and by people I mean like the science people from back in the day, this isn't that long ago, they were flabbergasted. They were like, what the function is determining this? Because this is completely amazing. It kind of looks like those videos of my research simulations that I was showing you last week, doesn't it? But it's not a simulation. It's just a petri dish full of little mixed up chemicals. You can see the little bubbles. You see all those dots there? Those are little bubbles. But look at the wave formation. Doesn't it look alive? So when people started to discover that chemical reactions were capable of this, it wasn't much of a stretch for them to say, oh, I think we may have stumbled onto how the primordial ooze became life. Think about that. Super deep. Okay, so let's go into this some more. Speaking of life, how about an example of a sweet slime mold? So this is a really cool example I'd like to show you, but before I show you the video, I want to tell you something about slime mold. It's super smart. How smart is it? Well, a slime mold can grow the network that looks exactly like the Tokyo rail system. What? But talented and dedicated engineers spent countless hours designing Japan's rail system to be one of the world's most efficient. Could they have just asked the slime molds? Let's check it out. Okay, so here's the experiment that some Japanese scientists did. Sorry, I don't know if they were Japanese scientists, but it was a Japanese railway, okay? And what they did was in the middle there, that yellow thing is a blob of slime mold. And those little white things are little pieces of food. Now, just so happens that those little pieces of food are laid out exactly like the centralized hubs of the greater Tokyo metropolitan area. And so the problem, which is actually really highly non-trivial, mathematically speaking, is what is the most efficient network connections to produce, so that we don't waste any railway, we don't waste anyone's time, but we connect all of these hubs together. How should we draw the dots? Who knows? Slime mold just wants to eat. Slime mold just wants to crawl. Bow down. Slime mold. Slime mold's gonna answer your question in about 30 seconds. Well, this is time lapse, so that's not really fair, but this is insane. If you let this slime mold just crawl around, and then when it finds food, naturally it just starts to strengthen the connection between its center and the little bits of food it found. If you just let this thing go on its own, it exactly recreates the Tokyo subway map. Here's a picture again. This is a slime mold recreating the Tokyo railway system. Again, something that teams and teams of highly intelligent humans were working on for a very long time to get just right. Slime mold just eats it up. Okay, so you're probably really interested in slime mold now, I would hope. And so now, really enjoy our collaboration earlier with arts and media. And so I'd like to give a little time for this TED Talk by Heather Barnett, who's an artist, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about the slime mold.
Cephalum. It's a mold with an identity crisis because it's not a mold. So let's get that straight to start with. It is one of 700 known slime molds belonging to the kingdom of the amoeba. It is a single-celled organism, a cell, that joins together with other cells to form a mass supercell to maximize its resources. So within a slime mold, you might find thousands or millions of nuclei, all sharing the cell wall, all operating as one entity. In its natural habitat, you might find the slime mold foraging in woodlands, eating rotting vegetation. But you might equally find it in research laboratories, classrooms, and even artist studios. I first came across the slime mold about 5 years ago. A microbiologist friend of mine gave me a petri dish with a little yellow blob in it and told me to go home and play with it. The only instructions I were given that it likes it dark and damp, and its favourite food is porridge oats. I'm an artist who's worked for many years with biology, with scientific processes. So living material is not uncommon for me. I've worked with plants, bacteria, cuttlefish, fruit flies. So I was keen to get my new collaborator home to see what it could do. So I took it home and I watched. I fed it a varied diet. I observed as it networked, it formed a connection between food sources. I watched it leave a trail behind it, indicating where it had been. And I noticed that when it was fed up with one petri dish, it would escape and find a better home. I captured my observations through time-lapse photography. Slime mold grows at about 1 centimetre an hour, so it's not really ideal for live viewing, unless there's some form of really extreme meditation. But through the time-lapse, I could observe some really interesting behaviours. For instance, having fed on a nice pile of oats, the slime mold goes off to explore new territories in different directions simultaneously. When it meets itself, it knows it's already there, it recognises it's there, and instead retreats back and grows in other directions. I was quite impressed by this feat, how what was essentially just a bag of cellular slime could somehow map its territory, know itself, and move with seeming intention. I found countless scientific studies, research papers, journal articles, all citing incredible work with this one organism. I'm going to share a few of those with you. For example, a team in Hokkaido University in Japan filled a maze with slime mold. It joined together and formed a mass cell. They introduced food at 2 points, oats, of course, and it formed a connection between the food. It retracted from empty areas and dead ends. There are 4 possible routes through this maze, yet time and time again, the slime mold established the shortest and the most efficient route. Quite clever. The conclusion from their experiment was that the slime mold had a primitive form of intelligence. Another study exposed cold air at regular intervals to the slime mold. It didn't like it, doesn't like it cold, doesn't like it dry. They did this at repeat intervals, and each time the slime mold slowed down its growth in response. However, the next interval, the researchers didn't put the cold air on, yet the slime mold slowed down in anticipation of it happening. It somehow knew that it was about the time for the cold air that it didn't like. The conclusion from their experiment was that the slime mold was able to learn. A third experiment. The slime mold was invited to explore a territory covered in oats. It fans out in a branching pattern. As it goes, each food node it finds, it forms a network connection to and keeps foraging. After 26 hours, it established quite a firm network between the different oats. Now, there's nothing remarkable in this until you learn that the centre oat that it started from represents the city of Tokyo, and the surrounding oats are suburban railway stations. The slime mold had replicated the Tokyo transport network. A complex system developed over time by community dwelling, civil engineering, urban planning, what taken us well over 100 years took the slime mold just over a day. The conclusion from their experiment was that the slime mold can form efficient networks and solve the travelling salesman problem. It is a biological computer. As such, it has been mathematically modelled, algorithmically analysed, it's been sonified, replicated, simulated. World over, teams of researchers are decoding its biological principles to understand its computational rules and applying that learning to the fields of electronics, programming and robotics. So The question is, how does this thing work? It doesn't have a central nervous system. It doesn't have a brain, yet it can perform behaviors that we associate with brain function. It can learn, it can remember, it can solve problems, it can make decisions. So where does that intelligence lie? So this is a microscopy video I shot, and it's about 100 times.
Cliffhanger. I have the link inside the notes, so you're going to have to watch the rest later. I'm leaving it as a cliffhanger because I have so much more awesome stuff to show you. How does this thing work? Why, it's an example of self-organization. It's an emergent phenomena. The slime mold cells are working together as a team. And that same amazing intelligence and efficiency that they showcased is exactly the kind of thing that we're trying to do in the Changemaker Lab. It's gonna work. Trust the process. Now you see why I bought in immediately, because I knew this from decades of mathematical research and dynamical systems theory. I understand the power of teamwork, network theory, emergent behaviors, and it falls far beyond the power of any single individual. That's why the notes say team. Together, everyone achieves more. And it is super true. All right, let's take a look at another one. Has anybody ever seen a bunch of birds like this? Are they going? Look at it. Oh no, here they come! You get the idea? This is incredibly amazing. Whoa. And these are birds, not fish. But it looks like a school of fish, right? It looks like a lot of other stuff I've seen, right? It's just like the fractals. Like, how do all these amazing things look so similar in a way? Self-organization, emergence. The theory of self-organization pretty much explains it all. That's why it's so amazing. That's why I'm so excited about today's talk. Okay, so one more cool little movie, and then we're going to the polls to ask you what scales you see, and more importantly, that's just the warm-up question. I want to poll you on what examples of self-organization can you think of? So think about your work in the Changemaker Lab, please. And be ready to share thoughts on where you've observed emergent self-organizing behaviors in the lab. This one, another one that I've provided the link to in my notes, talks about how schools of fish swim in harmony.
How do schools of fish swim in harmony? And how do the tiny cells in your brain give rise to the complex thoughts, memories, and consciousness that are you? Oddly enough, those questions have the same general answer: emergence, or the spontaneous creation of sophisticated behaviors and functions from large groups of simple elements. Like many animals, fish stick together in groups, but that's not just because they enjoy each other's company. It's a matter of survival. Schools of fish exhibit complex swarming behaviors that help them evade hungry predators, while a lone fish is quickly singled out as easy prey. So which brilliant fish leader is the one in charge? Actually, no one is, and everyone is. So what does that mean? While the school of fish is elegantly twisting, turning, and dodging sharks in what looks like deliberate coordination, Each individual fish is actually just following two basic rules that have nothing to do with the shark. One, stay close but not too close to your neighbor. And two, keep swimming. As individuals, the fish are focused on the minutiae of these local interactions. But if enough fish join the group, something remarkable happens. The movement of individual fish is eclipsed by an entirely new entity, the school, which has its own unique set of behaviors. The school isn't controlled by any single fish. It simply emerges if you have enough fish following the right set of local rules. It's like an accident that happens over and over again, allowing fish all across the ocean to reliably avoid predation. And it's not just fish. Emergence is a basic property of many complex systems of interacting elements. For example, the specific way in which millions of grains of sand collide and tumble over each other almost always produces the same basic pattern of ripples. And when moisture freezes in the atmosphere, the specific binding properties of water molecules reliably produce radiating lattices that form into beautiful snowflakes. What makes emergence so complex is that you can't understand it by simply taking it apart, like the engine of a car. Taking things apart is a good first step to understanding a complex system, but if you reduce a school of fish to individuals, it loses the ability to evade predators, and there's nothing left to study. And if you reduce the brain to individual neurons, you're left with something that is notoriously unreliable, and nothing like how we think and behave, at least most of the time. Regardless, whatever you're thinking about right now isn't reliant on a single neuron lodged in the corner of your brain. Rather, the mind emerges from the collective activities of many, many neurons. There are billions of neurons in the human brain, and trillions of connections between all those neurons. When you turn such a complicated system like that on, it could behave in all sorts of weird ways, but it doesn't. The neurons in our brain follow simple rules, just like the fish, so that as a group, their activity self-organizes into reliable patterns that let you do things like recognize faces, successfully repeat the same task over and over again, and keep all those silly little habits that everyone likes about you. So, what are the simple rules when it comes to the brain? The basic function of each neuron in the brain is to either excite or inhibit other neurons. If you connect a few neurons together into a simple circuit, you can generate rhythmic patterns of activity, feedback loops that ramp up or shut down a signal, coincidence detectors, and disinhibition, where two inhibitory neurons can actually activate another neuron by removing inhibitory brakes. As more and more neurons are connected, increasingly complex patterns of activity emerge from the network. Soon, so many neurons are interacting in so many different ways at once that the system becomes chaotic. The trajectory of the network's activity cannot be easily explained by the simple local circuits described earlier. And yet, from this chaos, patterns can emerge, and then emerge again and again in a reproducible manner. At some point, these emergent patterns of activity become sufficiently complex and curious to begin studying their own biological origins, not to mention emergence. And what we've found in emergent phenomena at vastly different scales is that same remarkable characteristic as the fish displayed, that emergence doesn't require someone or something to be in charge. If the right rules are in place and some basic conditions are met, a complex system will fall into the same habits over and over again, turning chaos into order. That's true in the molecular pandemonium that lets your cells function, the tangled thicket of neurons that produces your thoughts and identity, your network of friends and family, all the way up to the structures and economies of our cities across the planet.
Whoa, that was amazing. So that's why we're here, is to learn about that. Did any of that kind of relate to what we're doing in the Changemaker Lab to you? That's where the synergy between this, what I'm bringing, and all the tacit knowledge of all the viewers are going to combine into to create this awesome new thing that neither one of us really know what's going to be, but it's going to be something super cool. Yeah. Oh no, what happened? Oh no, policy violation.